Guys, this is Tarot with Kittens, Weights, and Tarot, and today is a very impromptu, I guess, vlog, and it's actually really cold in my classroom, so I have this big jacket on, and no, I didn't wear this to school today. Like, I got changed because I have to go out to the track in about 45 minutes to go coach my athletes because getting ready for their first kind of league, meet against kind of an okay school. My kids are gonna win. I wanted to pop on with just something that I've been getting in like my meditations for a while now, and I like sharing like this stuff with you guys and kind of getting feedback and seeing like what are you guys getting in your meditations, like what are things that you guys know to be true. And I just like to get all different kinds of points of view because I don't believe that any one of us is like the answer guru. Like I just like to share knowledge and ideas, and let's have a conversation. So I don't even know if I want to give this a hashtag. I mean, I guess you guys can. Last one I did, I talked about free will, and I called it hashtag free will. But this one is about timelines. Let me just describe this meditation that I had, and actually subsequent meditations that were rather similar. I usually have, there's a particular guide of mine that takes me into what I can only describe as, like, I guess the Akashic records, or just kind of a different realm. And although I can feel myself still in the room that I'm in meditating, I also feel like myself is in this other place, and I get kind of like tripped out. And so as I go into this place that I feel like I'm in outer space, but it's this space in between outer space. It's almost like as if, the inky blackness and the stars kind of part into this kind of other realm, this other dimension. In this other realm, the colors to me kind of look like the colors from the Star Child Tarot. There's a lot of like geometry and triangles, and it's almost like this like pastel fog almost kind of everywhere. Very ethereal, very things not being concrete. It's very hard to explain. Things are like both concrete and not concrete at the same time. Every time I go there, I'm always met by my maternal grandparents. So I'm always met by my grandfather, my grandmother, and actually my my dog that I used to have, Precious, my little Maltese, whom my grandfather took care of for the end of her life. And they're both there the way I remember them actually as a kid, not as I remember them when they were older. And usually when I ask my grandfather, like, why am I here? Like, what's going on here? And he's like, why do you always ask the questions and you don't seek the answers for yourself? He's all, get in there, kiddo. Go find the answers. Go find them for yourself. Don't wait around for people to give you the answers. I'm like, thanks, Grandpa. My grandparents are like that. It's pretty awesome. So I meet my other guide. Well, there's a couple of guides that I meet on this other side. And one of them is Horus, but not in like the like Egyptian painting form, where it's got like the hawk's head or falcon's head and, human body, like it literally is a hawk. And I have a lot of hawks in my area, I guess, except I'm the only one that really sees them all the time. But the other guide I call Edward, which actually is the like agate skull that I keep on my altar. Like, that is the energy of Edward. So Edward is there. And when I'm there, I'm not in like the form that I am now. Okay, I'm not wearing a jacket for number one. But I'm in this other way that I see myself, with kind of like this white hair and blue eyes, but like just blue spheres, like not like blue colored eyes, like it's just like blue spheres in my skull. I have this triangle, kind of a bluish triangle on my chest. I have kind of a light here. It's like these like my veins are lit up, kind of all connecting to this triangle. It's pretty trippy. Anyway, sometimes I'll talk to Edward and I'll ask him about like past lives, and every now and then like future lives and things like this. And It's when he takes me over to what is kind of like a railing, like overlooking kind of like a whirlpool. And he has me overlook it, and he tells me that he says, okay, he says, listen to this. Like, you are being born at the same time you are dying in your current life. He says, and if you look down in there, he says, do you see all those people? And I'm like, yes. It's like all these like different timelines. It's like mixture of like, some of the era that they have the samurai in Japan. It's like a mixture of like farmland, and it's the World War II. There's like a whole lot of stuff like going on down there. And he's like, those prominent people that stand out to you, that is you. And he says, those timelines are still occurring. And I said, okay. I said, how could I be a fighting samurai in the present if I'm where I am right now in the present? And he's like, that's because, he says, on Earth, where you are, he says, everything has a definite beginning and a definite end, where he says, where we are, everything occurs at once. It's both beginning and it's ending. It's the end of the beginning. It's the beginning of the end. It's all together at the same time. And there are infinite timelines. He says there are so many different decisions that you make in all these different timelines. So he says, let's pick one that you're curious about. And I said, let's look at ancient Egypt. He says, great. He says, so let's say you're this person in ancient Egypt, the singular person during this singular point in time. He says, you're both being born and you're dying and you're living at the same time that right now in 2019, you're both being born, you're living, and you're dying. I was like, whoa, mind blown. So he says, he says, and yourself, let's say in ancient Egypt, is making decisions. He goes, and you're making decisions in so many different timelines. He goes, there's literally an infinite number. He goes, I know it's hard for you to grasp the number infinity. He says, but there's an infinite number of you making all these different decisions. He says, and your soul is learning from all of these at once. It's a different type of learning process than sitting down as a singular soul in a singular classroom, taking the information and moving on, which is kind of how I perceive things in very simple terms. He says, it's like, imagine you can be in so many different classrooms at once if time didn't exist. And you could learn different lessons in the same timeline while having infinite timelines. Like, let's say it's 1942, but I have an infinite number of outcomes of my decisions in 1942. So I don't know if I'm making any sense, because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, it kind of does, because my brain doesn't comprehend no beginning and no end. Like things just being kind of in a loop, and there being multiple timelines of things, so he tells me, he says, he goes, you should really be in no rush for anything, because time doesn't exist. He goes, if you want me to be cheeky about it, like, time really doesn't exist. He says, you are as much alive right now talking to me, sitting in your bedroom doing your meditation, as you are alive in World War II in a fighter plane. Like, he's like, you are the same person and you are alive. He's like, but if you really want me to blow your mind, he says, how about this? He says, okay. He goes, how do you perceive like spirit? He says, I know that you work with spirit. He says, you work with all of us. And I said, okay, well, I think sometimes when people pass away, they can hang out. I think they're part of like a collective of energy, so that they can know everything that everybody else knows, because everybody's perceiving things at the same time. He's like, okay. He goes, that sounds about right. He says, but what if I were to tell you that more than one soul can inhabit a body? And I was like, how is that possible? He says, okay. He says, you love your grandmother. I said, yes. In fact, I just saw her at the door with my grandfather. She greeted me at the door. It's like she's a Walmart greeter, but like for the, I don't know, etheric realm. And he says, okay, imagine this. Imagine, he says, you perceive your grandmother's spirit on earth, okay? You can have a conversation with her. He says, but also imagine that your grandmother has also reincarnated, actually into several bodies, so that she can get her learn on, basically, so that she can learn as much as she can. He says, energy is not finite, is infinite. He says, you can like spread energy as much as you want. He says, so he says a lot of different energies might want to have an experience that she's having in one of her basically human forms. So it might be inhabited by multiple spirits. There might be a more dominant spirit. There might be no other spirit. There might be just like one. There might be 10. He says, but there might be multiple spirits in a body. So he says, while you're speaking, let's say your grandmother's spirit comes to you in your room, she is for sure there talking to you in your room, but she is also for sure reincarnated into so many different forms, maybe forms that aren't even here on earth. He says she is everywhere at once because all of us are everywhere at once. He goes, that's energy. That is source energy. It's literally mind-blowing. And when I'm in this realm, and I'm getting all this information, I can't be there for more than like 10 or 15 minutes because I try to stay there, but usually my guide who took me up there, I call it like up there, but it's usually like he's looking at his watch and he's like, gotta go. And I'm like, what? No, like I'm learning so many awesome things. And he's like, no one to tell you, you gotta go. You can't stay here. He says, you literally are not allowed to stay here for too long. And I'm like, okay, so usually I gotta go and I gotta go back to earth. But yeah, this was quite the ramble. It probably, I don't know if I made any sense, but I really felt like sharing this with you guys. Like, I really want to have a conversation about this. So if you guys have any thoughts on this, or maybe you just think I'm Looney Tunes, that's fine too. But yeah, I want to have a conversation. Let me know in the comment section down below, like, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts? What do you think about energy and infinite timelines and sharing bodies and all that stuff? All this stuff has been coming back up in my meditations lately, or even what that name is of that realm that I go to. I don't even know what the name of that place is, but for some reason I can never stay too long, which is always kind of weird. I don't know why that is. But yeah, turn it into a hashtag if you want. Make a video response. I'd be more than happy to hear what you guys have to say. Maybe talk about it on the Instagrams. I don't know. Anyway, I will catch you spiritual homies later. If you want more rambly, odd videos like this, just go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Don't forget to click subscribe, and don't forget to click that ding 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 notification bell for more videos just like this. And if you want to catch a reading with me because you think my rambles are pretty awesome, head over to www.kittenswaitsandtarot.com. All right, I will catch you spiritual homies later. I'm gonna head off to track practice, and peace, love, and chicken grace. Peace out.